podcast where every Tuesday we feature an interview with an outstanding and award-winning independently published author. I'm Rita Mills.
And I'm Sandy Lawrence. And here at Books on Fire, we spotlight independently published authors whose works stand out across all genres. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Today we have with us DavidFBalog. His book, The Necromancer's Sorrow, came in as one of the gold winners. It was 2023, so basically it was an Embers book, not a Fire book. A little information, the FIRE Award is for the current year copyrighted books, and the Embers Awards are for the books published in the previous 5 years. We've always felt like, especially with a lot of independently published books, that they just never got the recognition that they deserve. And we feel like that those books that come into the Embers part of the competition are good enough, and they deserve a second chance to maybe get someone's attention. Who knows? You know, there's been several that we've interviewed that I could see Netflix or Amazon Prime, getting involved with. And the more they're out there and the more information and awards they get, the more visible they're going to be. So that's basically a little bit of background about what we're trying to do here at FIRE, the FIRE Book Awards, and our podcast, which is Books on Fire.
So we are starting off this podcast with interviews of those authors who placed either gold or what became one of the finalists, or they were ultimately the winning book. All of those together are our first priority to make sure we get recognition to those people that invested with us in our very first year. It was our inaugural year, 2024. And now as we go into 2025, and the reason I was asking you if you had a book coming out this year, because we want to see, we want to remind you that this will be the 2025 FIRE Book Awards, and then the Embers will move up a year or 5 years. So after we finish these interviews, then we will be looking at other authors who are leaders of the industry or who have a book that, that we like. So we'll be celebrating and interviewing authors of books that are on fire. So
exactly.
Let's dive in.
David, the very first thing that I would like to say, and it's kind of a question and a little bit of a statement, is I did not know what necromancer or necromancing was until I looked it up.
Now, you could have found a lot of different kind of information.
Well, I hate to say this, but the first thing that come to my mind was necrophilia, and I thought, oh God, what have we got?
Well, it does have the same start. Necro.
That's true. That's true.
So, David, I know you had to explain to me once what it was, what necromancer means. That's when you had the very first one, and now you have two and working on the third one. So, what do you say to people when they say, "What is necromancer?"
Well, the traditional definition of a necromancer is someone who can foretell the future by examining the dead. And that goes into augury and other types of reading entrails, and all of that is all part of necromancy as far as the traditional definition of it is concerned.
Oh.
In the case of the type of magic that my wizard uses, necromancy deals with the dead, the undead, and also life. My necromancer is like kind of a subset of necromancy. It's a vitae necromancy, so he focuses more on the life aspect than the death aspect.
So it pulls something in, because if I were doing it, I would have used the term psychic or a psychic medium, something along those lines. But the way I understand it, necromancy actually examines the physical aspects of the person that's died. Is that right?
Yeah, the physical aspects of the person that died, and trying to divine the future through the death. In the Hollywood version of it is that the bad guy kills somebody and then finds out the future by reading the entrails of the person that they've killed, because that's Hollywood. That's how they look at things.
Oh, okay.
A more traditional thing would be, it's basically like an early form of autopsy, an early form of how did this person die, and does this person's death foretell anything for the future? Oncoming plagues, whatever. That it's but at that point, it's still mysticism over science, because the whole concept of it was developing the science.
Oh, okay. I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So how did you get interested in that?
Well, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games pretty much my entire life. And in the game, one of the subsets of wizards is Necromancer. And again, Necromancers are usually considered the bad guys, because they're the ones that are they're animating skeletons and zombies and making vampires and creating undead creatures like that. My character, who this is based off of, I've actually played most of the characters in the books through different iterations of the game over the years, which really allowed me to delve into their personality. So I know how they think, how they feel. But they never, because they were in different games, they never met each other until I put them in the books. And that's when I found out they don't all like each other. But my main character hates the undead. He was attacked by a couple of undead creatures as a child, and so he studied magic in order to learn how to destroy creatures like that. And so, as a Vitae necromancer, working on the life aspect of things, he works more with the life magic to destroy the negative undead magic. As it's described in the book, you have to learn how something is made in order to learn how to take it apart more easily.
Yeah, I get that. Sounds like my little grandson.
I think children figure that out, but they forget it by the time they become an adult.
Yeah.
So, have you, with this, this type of book is this type of topic or book or whatever is very popular today. I mean, if you go to Netflix, a good portion of the new releases are something to do with magic or with, I don't know about necromancy, but something to do with or the undead or all of this topic. Fantasy,
fantasy and sci-fi. Yeah.
Is this considered like sci-fi fantasy? Would that be the genre that you?
Yeah, this is fantasy. I wrote it at the young adult level, in part because it's a bigger audience, and also because I didn't want to get into like the gory details. Like I could have made it very adult and get into deep into the fight scenes or deep into anything that's more of an adult relationship, but that's not what I wanted to write. And I joke with people all the time that, oh yeah, it would be great if if Netflix or Hulu or something would find this book and then turn that into a nice property. And I know HBO won't do it because I don't have enough boobs in my book for HBO to pick it up.
Well, but Netflix is just becoming I don't even know what term to use, but they're just soaking up and absorbing all of these new books, I've several books that I've read, and all of a sudden I see, wow, that's now at Netflix. And if you're Harlan Coben, bless his heart, he must be a millionaire by now, because every book, every new thing I see says book by Harlan Coben. But so I really do think that would be something for you to consider. Is how would you go about? Have you even checked into how you would go about
I actually have an author friend who's working on a screenplay of one of his books because I can't remember if it's a family or a friend out in Hollywood that works on screenplay. So he's teaching him how to make a screenplay. So he's going back and forth and working on that. And I'm kind of sitting in the background waiting to see how that works out as far as him getting settled in, and then I'm going to pick his brain and figure out how to turn
Well, don't wait too long because you could probably be figuring things out a different way now.
Oh,
Because from what I understand, Netflix doesn't require you to have a screenplay or anything.
No, 9 times out of 10, whoever produces the book is going to want to get the screenplay. They want control over it. It's just like with a children's book. Yeah, they don't want to see illustrations and all that. They want to see the story, and they put the illustrations to it. So you're just basically wasting your time if you try and do a screenplay. You could be writing another book.
Now, if you're going to Hollywood, that might be the way to go. Screenplay and all that, get an agent. But we're talking, long time, years in the making. And then after they go out and solicit these movies, at least what we know from authors that have had their books picked up for a movie, is sometimes it's years, and then maybe years down the road they decide they don't want to do it anymore. So Netflix and any streaming one probably is going to be pretty similar to Netflix, but it would be something that I would recommend that you check into anyway, just to see.
In that case, if you have contacts in any of those industries, I would happily accept their names and find a way to pass my book along to them.
Well, I do know there is a big show out in LA, I'm assuming it may be in Vegas, and people come with their ideas and pitch the producers. And I have a friend who is in the audio. He has his own video company, and I'll ask him what the name of that place is, and I'll send it to you.
That would be great. I've got family in Vegas, so if it's out that way, it'll give me a chance to visit because I haven't seen my auntie in a long time.
Yeah. But it's for the film industry, period. People pitch game shows or a series or a movie. It covers all of the video type general genres or whatever.
And that's what I thought about when I realized. I don't watch fantasy that much. If I get involved in it or in a series, then yes, absolutely. So it was in checking in that I'm like, some of these books that we're looking at have everything that sounds like a Netflix movie or a Netflix series. So anyway, that doesn't cost you anything at all, David. So and definitely I'll be looking to see if I can find something that has somebody's name in it that you would contact. So however I can help you, I'll be happy to help you. I want to get you back down to Houston so you can come for a visit.
And I do want to come to Houston. I'm hoping I can do it next year. Now that some of my bills have settled a little bit, and I can actually, I'm starting to pay things off that'll allow me to put some money away to savings. So that
good.
I can maybe do
we
I forget which Comic-Con it was that I did the one time.
I don't remember that either, but
I know there's a bunch of them. I lose track.
Rita, you were asking the question?
No, I just said we love Houston. I don't know of any place else I'd want to live, but if you're new to Houston, we just have a gazillion different types of museums everywhere, from science to art, and all kinds of places like Schlitterbahn and Moody Gardens, and Galveston's a 45-minute drive to the beach.
I had a lot of fun visiting last time I was there.
We had a great time. He stayed with us for several days, and so we had a very good time. My husband really enjoyed talking to him. So, David, What's been the most challenging thing for you as far as writing these books?
As far as writing, I think focusing on actually doing the writing. Between day job and the house and life in general, sometimes just being able to sit down for an hour even to write a little bit. Um, yeah, it's. I think that's probably been my biggest challenge as far as the process is concerned. The writing itself. Um, Trying to think of what would be the most challenging part of the actual writing for me, and it's probably because of my style of writing, is because I'm very much a pantser. I very much write by however my muse directs at any particular time. I'm working on book 3 right now, and I set this up where there's 15 chapters in each book, and I have all 15 open simultaneously. I think 9 of them are done, and I'm still working on the other 6 at the same time.
Oh
So
God.
if I feel like working on this chapter, I work on this chapter. If I feel like working on that chapter, I work on that chapter. But um, it helps to have them all, each chapter in its own file, so that when I'm looking for continuity, I can go back and went, all right, I remember saying something about this earlier in chapter 3. What did I say so that I'm not contradicting myself in chapter 9? So I
That's
can keep
true.
going
That's
back and
true.
forth. I know some people like to do the whole thing in one file, but then that's a lot of scrolling back and forth trying to find information. I went, okay, I know that was in chapter 3, so I just have to go through that much of it.
Well, as long as you remember what chapter you were in.
Yeah.
But you'll come close, I'm sure, even if it wasn't exact. You know, no, it wasn't 3, it was 4 or something.
Yeah.
So how does the character development? How does that affect, or how does the character development affect the whole, overall the book? Because if you're writing about a character in chapter 3, how do you know where they're going to be in chapter 10 or something? So how do you work that out?
Well, I kind of work it out. Whereas, when I'm setting up the book, I don't so much do an outline as I'll have like a page of notes. I'll know the scenes that I want to have in the book. I'll know the beats that I want to have, and those are usually the first things I write. So I kind of have those in something of an order, so I know kind of what he's going to be in chapter 1. I know what he's going to have to deal with in chapter 10. I know what he's going to have to deal with in chapter 13. So I can build things from there, um, and then I kind of let the story evolve as I'm writing it. Um, as characters come in and out, as as events happen, I look, and if an event will change what happens later in the book, I'll just make those alterations later. Um, you know, I had a major problem with that while I was writing the first book, because I killed a character that I hadn't intended to kill, and it caused me to change what I was writing later on in the book, because that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well,
So you do get surprised every now and then.
Yeah, but you can't give the characters plot armor, because the readers will notice that. The readers will notice that you found a way to save a character that shouldn't have been saved, but the story demanded that it went in that direction, and so I just followed what the story was telling me and what the characters were telling me and what the voices in my head are telling me. As speaking at once.
I got a Facebook. Well, it was on Facebook. It was from a writers group this last week, and this woman said that she just had to share this review that she saw on some book, and she said she had seen the book or heard about the book from several different sources, and it came highly well recommended. But one of the reviews said, I got into the characters. I did something, yada, yada, yada. But I just thought she was making it up as she went along.
For artists, that's all we do is make it along.
What a beautiful.
I've heard so many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rita.
I was going to say it's a beautiful cat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's a big boy. We were just supposed to be house sitting him for a couple of months 10 years ago, and and after a while we realized, like, I think he's our cat now. But
what's his name?
His name is Kyo. It's spelled Kyo, like Tokyo without the toe.
Ah, okay.
KYO.
Yeah, Kyo.
Well,
I like
I
that.
watch a YouTube channel about a little monkey named Kyo too.
Oh, nice.
So they have he has a friend out there somewhere.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Keo has a friend named Keo,
Yeah.
a monkey. That's
Well,
awesome.
His dad actually got a monkey friend. Yeah, he doesn't care.
do you have to do much research, or I know that it says in your bio that you know a lot about theology and mythology, those sort of things. But other than your already background that you have, do you have to do much other research?
Every now and then, it's always for little details. I'll spend an hour researching something for one sentence. I took some time to figure out just how long it takes to make a chainmail glove, and whether or not two people can work on it together. I learned a lot about caves and their structures, and the stalagmites, stalactites, stalagnates. You know, you know,
I could have helped you there.
yeah.
I used to do spelunking when I was young.
I've always wanted to, and I knew a little bit about it, but since I was writing for the book, I wanted to make sure I had my details right.
Yeah.
So I did a deep dive, and then you forget to do the writing once you're into a certain level of research. And oh yeah, I need to get back into it.
The reason I was here.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at things. I did research on medieval dance and just all kinds of fun stuff. Just because I needed to know how to write it into the book.
Yeah.
So,
if I get it wrong, somebody's going to call me on it. Somebody who has more information than I will say, "You wrote that wrong. This is how it really is." I'm like,
They'll probably say you were just making it up as you went along.
yeah. Well, I'm a fantasy writer. That's how it works in this world.
And you do make it up as you go along.
I do make it up as I go along. As I go along.
So let's talk about your publishing. So you've had quite a journey into publishing, I know.
Yes.
But it's been good. I mean, you've made a lot of contacts and you made some changes. So you want to talk about that?
Yep. When the book first came out in 2020, which was, of course, a great year for marketing. Everybody did great in 2020.
Yeah, really.
But when I signed the contract with James at Rock Hill Publishing in 2019, we didn't know what 2020 was going to be bringing at the time.
Right. That's true.
So I was with James for I think a year and a half, 2 years or so, and then Haley and I left James in order to form our own company because he brought 5 of us in 1 year and gave us all our start, and it's like, well, we want to be able to do that too. So we kind of decided we were going to form like a little daughter company of, have our company. We're going to bring people in the same way he brought us in. And with us gone, that also frees up time for him to find more new authors while we're finding new authors as well. We signed on with somebody else, and that didn't work out as well because the other person had just started her own company. Like, well, since you already have a company and you're looking for authors, and we'll all work together. And we didn't work together as well as we'd hoped. So a year later, we went back to Plan A, and I just called Haley up and I said, I just registered the name Owl Talon Press. You still want in for half on the publishing company? She said, hell yes, sign me up. So I put her name on the paperwork, and now we are Owl Talon Press.
Well, that's good. So I'm very glad you and Haley connected because I know you had done some of the events together, and so I knew that was it. You guys got along great, so that's awesome. I was
we really we connected well, and she's like the niece I never had. It's
So what would you tell another young writer that was looking to get published? What kind of advice would you give them?
know your book. Shop it around, talk it up, know how to. Elevator pitches are fun. You have to play with them a lot and find different ways to describe your book in a short period of time. And when you're trying to make a sale, then you're working on the quick pitch because you don't know how long you're going to have somebody's attention. When you're talking to a publisher, we are interested in knowing, so you don't necessarily have to give us the 30-second spiel, but know your book, be excited about your book. If you're not excited about your book, then we're not going to be excited about your book either. And do your due diligence. Run it through as many editing passes as you can. Get the product as clean as possible before you talk to a publisher. When you're querying a publisher, make sure you have a good query letter, which I wasn't doing at the beginning because I didn't know anything about making a query letter. So I contacted a bunch of publishers that I never heard back from, or I got the thank you for contacting us, but we're not interested. The only one that gave me anything positive was somebody who wanted £5,000 up front. So for me to send them a bunch of money, and they would be happy to publish my book and disappear with my money and then form a new company with my cash.
That's called vanity.
Exactly. So I still have that letter. I kept that one because it was fun. I kept that one with all of my rejection letters. And then I looked a little more deeply, found out how to make a better query letter. About a month after I made that letter, James at Rock Hill said, I want to see the rest of your book. I went, yeah. I'll send you the rest of my book. What else do you want? I'll shine your shoes. I'll do whatever you want.
I know. Well, because I got to know, I met them first, actually, before I met you. And I met them on one of the cruises that Judith did. And spent a lot of time with them, just visiting and talking about their books and their company. And then I met you guys and I met Haley. And so I was just, I loved all of you. I loved working with you and everything. It was a lot of fun. So I am glad to see that you and Haley, because I knew you had connected. I'm glad to see y'all are, continuing with the fun and all that. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
a bunch of new authors. We have her second book finally came out last November. We have a romantasy that will be coming out as soon as we finally get the artwork settled in, because everything else is ready for it. Haley's good with online, and she on one of the Instagram books or groups that she's in. It's a bunch of other authors, and so we're putting together an anthology. So we're in the final stages of getting that anthology.
Oh, that's good.
Children's book that's coming out soon. We're just waiting for final artwork on that one. I'm working on my book 3. We have 2 other authors that we picked up that were in their second round of edits, and we've recently found a couple other authors that are deeper into the queue because we already have people in front of them. But so we have. We're growing fast.
Do y'all do your own production in-house?
We do everything in-house. We last spring we opened up for submissions for authors and for artists, and that's where we found two of our authors, and we found 2 other artists. Well, we found a couple artists that we liked, but 2 of them in particular we really locked on to. And so having 3 different artists available helps us with getting book covers out a little faster, because people have day jobs, people have family lives.
Oh yeah, this is always a side job.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I need you to get this art done, but in the meanwhile you've got everything else going on while we're trying to get them to do the art, and while they're trying to do the art, we're busy trying to do writing and editing. So we run everything through circles. We make sure that we stay in communication with everybody, so that when we go through a round of editing, we have a meeting with the author before we send them back and go, before you look at all of the red squiggly lines, here's what we saw, and here's what we want. Before you just, it's like, they changed everything. Well,
it is daunting at times, for sure.
Yeah. So we talk to them before they see that, before they panic.
Well, that's all. Go ahead, Rita.
How did you learn how the book publishing business works?
To a large degree by watching James. Spending all of the time at Rock Hill, we would have regular meetings, and I paid attention to what he was doing, what he was saying. I would listen to Athena and what she was saying, what she was doing. So I learned a lot about the business just from them. And then we would have these kind of meetings. We had all the meetings with Amy and all of the other publishers and all of the other authors. And then we had like workshops that they were. How did you get up there? Somehow or another, he managed to get to the top of my bookcases, and I have no idea what he jumped on to get up that high. I think I know what he did. He came in from the other side of the room. Sorry, he just distracted me. Like, how did you get but I remember Amy having like a bunch of weekly or monthly workshops that they were doing every Monday night or something. I took a lot of notes, paid a lot of attention. I figured at some point I might get into the publishing side of things. I wasn't really planning on it. I'm more than happy to be an author and not have the responsibility of having to do everything else.
I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you get to a point where you realize that if you want it done, you got to do it. And I wanted
and that's one of the things. So I met Rita 20 years ago, and one of the things that she instilled in me was the value, the quality of the work, and making sure that the quality of the book published by an independent author or self-published would equal that of Random House. Because as long as as long as the books have quality, and as long as they're done correctly, and everything is, it's not some outlandish way that it looks or whatever off the deep end, but as long as it's done where it's done correctly, then there is no difference between an independent published book and Random House.
That's part of what the FIRE Book Awards is about. To give, for instance, every book should have a Library of Congress number and a CIP, or a cataloging and publication number. And there was actually 2 out of all of the books entered that had the CIP data. Now, there was a smattering, maybe 6 or 8, that had the Library of Congress information. But I helped, was co-publisher of Third Coast Books back, it's been about 8 years ago now. I left there about 5 years ago when Dina got sick. And I was talking to the guy who took it over the other day about the block of ISBN numbers, because I had bought 100 ISBN numbers. And I always went to my identifiers and filled out all the information so that the bookstores knew where to find me and the libraries knew where to find me. He didn't have a clue about that. So all of those books, which is about 8 or 10 that he's published since I left in 2019, he's spinning his wheels because nobody knows where to find him. So anytime you can learn more, or take a workshop, or go hear someone speak about the publishing industry, you need to. Because I can tell you, I started in this business in 1991, and it is not anything like it was back then. Not even in the same ballpark. The only thing that's remained constant is the ISBN numbers. But everything.
Well, I met you, Rita, that I retired from Hewlett Packard in 2002. And so as soon as I retired, I went to a publishing kind of all-day event with my mother-in-law, who was an author. And she took me over and said, I want you to meet Rita. And that's, up until then, I had not really even thought about getting into working with authors. I just was in marketing, always been in marketing, and that's what I wanted to continue doing. But when I saw the things that Rita could teach me, and we went to a couple of meetings with her and other things, that it was just, I was so blown away by mainly my first thing, and I talked to Rita about it back then, is generosity of the people that are in the publishing world. I mean, if I know something, I will tell you. I'll be happy to show you exactly what you and anybody can do to make their book have that quality that is so important, so that we get the name self-published or independent published or indie or whatever. We get those names raised up where they are equal to, and they're not just like, oh, that's a self-published book, and
Mhm.
people look down on them, and they just automatically deem them as second rates or something. And so that was our goal, was all the way through the whole time we worked together. And then now that we're retired and doing the award, it's how can we elevate the quality of the books that are independently published so that everybody, they all have a good name, a quality name. So we've even talked about getting together and having some of those classes that you were talking about, like some people call them master classes, but whatever you call them, having just some training on, like Rita said, when we found out that only 2 books of all of them turned in even had that CIP data, which schools require it. If you're going to be in a school library, regular libraries, public libraries require it. It's a requirement. And so if that many books don't have it, then that many books are losing out on a huge marketing opportunity by
That's
having their books available in bookstores and libraries and schools and all that. So that was just a long way of saying if there's anything we can do to help you with, and you and Haley, or you and your authors, if you wanted me to come in and do a workshop on, for your authors, on here's how you have a quality book, or anything like that, anything along the way, just let us know, because we definitely want to contribute to up and coming authors and up and coming publishing companies as well.
Well, we're kind of in flux right now. We thought about starting the workshops in January, and it just didn't work out. The award was a whole lot more work than what we all anticipated, to be real honest. And then we decided we wanted to do the podcast, and we will eventually get around to doing a series of workshops, and we'll keep you informed when we have those going. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about publishing, what you do next, or anything like that, please feel free to contact us. Or if you want to learn it on your own, there are 2 or 3 authors that anything that they write about is good information. There's a lot of people out there that published one book, and then the next book was how to publish a book, and you don't want to be following those people, trust me.
Right.
But anything by Dan Poynter, which is spelled Poynter, bless his heart, he died about 4 years ago now, but he was the original father of self or independent publishing. He had books on cats, and he was published through a mainstream publisher, and he figured out how they did it, and he came in and taught everybody else how to do the self or the independent publishing. But him and we love John Kramer, and his last name is Kremer. His specialty is marketing, but he knows as much about the publishing business as anybody I know. And
And
they
that was one thing I was going to ask you. So, who in your publishing company, who does the marketing?
I probably do more of the marketing just because living in the Midwest, I have access to like more shows. So I do a lot of live shows, art
I
shows,
did see on your
cons, where Haley lives, at the tail end of Florida, and yeah,
I know.
and not much happens in the Keys because not much is supposed to. And then anything else that she wants to do is probably going to be in Miami, and Miami is expensive. So I do a lot of the live shows there. There are a lot of small indie bookstores around here. And last time she was in town, we drove around through Cleveland and Akron and visited a lot of indie bookstores. Some of them took the books right out of her hands. Some of them just scanned the back, said, "Oh, you're on Ingram. All right, we're ordering it right now." Okay, sure.
When you say shows, are you talking about like Comic-Con type?
Yeah, Comic-Con, art shows, craft shows, individual author events, library events. And my writing group helps with that too, as far as finding author events and stuff as well.
Mhm.
But by getting my face out there, because unless your face is out there with your books in hand, people don't know that you exist.
That's
And
right.
a couple million books are published every year, and it's a lightning strike for somebody to just find you by accident. So I'm out there saying, "Oh, here's my book. Oh, and here's my partner's book. Oh, and here's the new books that we just published. And here's my friend's books that I'm also carrying for him right now to help promote this guy, even though he's not part of our company. But he's a friend, therefore he's out here with me."
And I knew you were very generous like that, David. I knew when you and I talked before. I'm looking at your website now, and you do have events. You have 4 events or 3 events in March.
Actually,
And
4. I need to update that because one of them just kind of popped up recently.
okay, and then you got some in April and May, and then one in June. So you definitely have a calendar that's filling up as you go. So that's
good.
very good.
Good, David.
Yeah, and I've got a few more that were on tap. Like I said before, now that I've got some bills paid, now I can afford to pay for some of those shows and tables that I've been holding off on. But for March, I have there's an Oddmall show the first weekend of March, and there's an Oddmall show at the last weekend of March. In between, I have Cleveland Concoction, which is I always went there as a gamer, so I was always there to play games. And since I became an author, now I'm in Author's Alley. So doing the workshops and everything else there, and it's just a whole lot of fun to actually be on the panel instead of just being in the audience. But I learned so much being in the audience when I was starting to become an author. And I also have a Cleveland Fan Expo, which is a nice, big, giant Comic-Con, Fan Con, Star Wars, Star Trek, any kind of fandom that you're part of. And what's nice is having a big show like that in Cleveland, whereas later on in the year, I'm doing something similar in Indianapolis, but for there, I have to pay for a hotel and gas and food and everything else. Here in Cleveland, I come home afterwards. So
Yeah.
all I'm paying for is downtown parking for the weekend.
Yeah, that is the advantage. And as long as they have quite a few around you, that's a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
And if you can partner with people that go the next round out, that works. So that's great.
That's what really helps is that there's so much happening around here within driving distance. Sometimes I'll have to go an hour and a half or so if I'm doing something all the way out into Youngstown. But I can get to Akron, Canton. A couple years ago, I did a show in Toledo, which unfortunately just keeps falling on the same weekend as something else that I'm already scheduled for. So I haven't been able to do that show.
Oh, an hour and a half is no big deal. I travel an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're in Texas. In order for you to blink, you have to drive an hour and a half.
If we just want to go downtown Houston, it's an hour. So.
Right. Yeah. Having driven down to Texas from here and then realizing, Houston's close to Louisiana. It's only 80 some miles away. I'm like, okay.
And it's all freeway.
And it's all freeway, but
yeah.
But when I got in and I saw that I was at mile marker 880 when I crossed the border, I'm like,
I know.
Man, this is a long state.
That is a big shock to everybody when they first do that and see that mile marker. It's like, oh my God.
So you get into Ohio and you got 237, 242 miles to get from end to end.
Yeah, somebody told me that from Houston to Chicago, it's less miles than to go from Beaumont to El Paso.
Yep.
That's just foreign to me, but I do understand.
Too big for one state. That's all there is to it.
It is a big state.
For Ohio's, you need to break up into smaller pieces.
That's true.
Well, David, this interview has been a lot of fun, very enlightening. We appreciate you coming on, and informing us about what necromancy is. I appreciate that.
And all this time, I have not been holding up the book. Which...
Yep, absolutely.
But like I said, we do interview a new author, and it goes up on our YouTube and all the other places like Spotify and Apple Tunes or whatever. I don't know all those places that it goes, but it goes up on Tuesday morning early, and it's available the rest of the week for people who are on their drive time. And again, we're spotlighting and highlighting independently published works that we think have a lot of merit, and we want to see them sell more books and people become more aware of it.
Well, as we get our new authors in through this year, I will be sending you their books to check out.
That sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
Mine won't be done in time, but Sarah.
Well, hey, you said
Sarah,
her
Mary,
second book is out, so tell her to make sure she gets that in the awards. We'd love her to win an award next time and be included.
We'll put her for the Ember because it came out in November, and I didn't think it was going to come out that early. So I didn't put it in for last year's Fire because we didn't know we weren't going to be ready by November, and we were focused on trying to get Sarah's book out by November.
Well, a last little tip: do not publish a book after August or September of a year, because it only gives that book till the end of that year to get any kind of recognition. So if you're planning on publishing something in November, put it off till January.
Yeah, give it a January, or give it a 2026 date then, so you can have that extra time for the marketing, because it's more difficult to market an old book than it is a new book. So
yeah, we're still learning those little aspects of it.
I know, and you know what? You'll be learning them. Rita, I don't even know, when I first started working with Rita, that you had to know the difference between a distributor and a what was the other one, Rita?
A distributor and a wholesaler.
A wholesaler. Now I can tell you that I at least 25 or 30 times I'm like, Rita, tell me again, what is that difference between the distributor and the wholesaler? And I kind of got it now, just kind of. But if I had to go teach one of these classes, I would have to have Rita come and teach the difference between those, because I know you have to have one that distributes the books out to the bookstores and the libraries, and they have to have the other one that I don't even know what a wholesaler does really. So, but they're a different breed. So we won't get into all of that now, since our time is like way up. So those of you watching,
we're a few minutes over our 45-minute time.
Yeah, I know.
For those wanting more information about the awards competition, that website address is bookawards with an S on the end of it.com. If you want more information about the podcast and the interviews that we're doing, that URL is books-onfire.com. And now Sandy has the closing word, which is,
until next time, keep those books on fire.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Thank you. This has been fun.